gets a lot of pressure on the hamstrings, so I hope they get enough blood. But like this, if I lift them up a bit, the blood can flow better. Woo!
Welcome to Pantarei, Klangwolke. I will take you with on a trip to show you how it works to create a big production like this. First we worked in Glisco, is the studio of Silk Flügel Dance Company, and there we created the raw material. There we could try out without audience how it is to fly for the girls. They tried out different kinds of turns and spins, so they had to find out how the things work exactly, because I think this trapeze that they are using to fly inside always is a bit different. You have to hold a really good body tension, especially in your core. You have to be very strong to control the movements. In the beginning they were flying very low, gave them more security to be closer to the floor. And for me the big challenge on this day was to create my dancing material, because I was connected with a rope on my back to the wall behind me, or basically the fence behind me on the lifting stage. So I had to deal with the situation that I have a rope tied to my back, and this is rather limiting in movement. And the second thing that added to it was the limitation of space, because my stage was just 2 meters deep and 4 meters wide, which is very small to do big and acrobatic movements. I thought over it, I tried out some things, and I came up with a little choreography. After this beginning in the studio, we already jumped right into the spot where we were going to perform, and we had a lot of rehearsal days there. We as the performers were basically there the whole days of rehearsals at Bruckner House in Linz. We had a long time to wait outside on the grass, because the cranes had to be tuned, the lights had to be tuned, the sound had to be tuned, everything had to be coordinated. And it's crazy because in this kind of big shows you have to be always ready, but you always have to wait. So basically you're waiting for hours and hours and hours, and suddenly someone is screaming, "Hey, we need you," and you have to be ready to go. For me it was a bit difficult with my wrists, because my wrists are sometimes a bit sensitive, but I have my special routines to get my wrists warm very fast. The biggest challenge for our part was to coordinate the cranes and the girls flying the cranes.
The cranes have to be synchronized. We need very musical crane drivers, and I hope they are already programmed to the right height and the right distances.
And they were connected with one guy with the funk, who told them always which position they have to take when. So they worked right together. But it took some time for them to get it, because the crane drivers had to rehearse a lot, and they needed a weight to hang on the line. So I was asked as a volunteer to fly, and this was very welcome to me, because we were anyway waiting, and I was really happy to get into the experience of flying across the river.
Once more I'm flying out over the river, but this time quite much higher. I'm still about 35-40 meters above the floor, or above the water, and it's quite a nice view from here. The laser show is still going on the other side of the river.
It was a really great opportunity for me to experience something like this, because it was definitely for me the first time to fly this high on a crane. And since we were the whole days on location, it was a great opportunity to connect with the other artists, which were also around all the time. The costumes had to be fine-tuned and fixed, and also coordinated with the riggers to have the safety belts involved into the costumes. And the girls, like my colleagues, they had huge dresses, and this was also one of our biggest challenges, which they had in the beginning of the show when they flew up with the cranes. like this very wide and beautiful dress. And on one point they had to release it, so the dress fell down into the river. But the problem was they basically couldn't rehearse that in real because they had only one of these dresses, and it was so huge, it was like, I don't know, 100 meters of clothes or something like this. So if this would have fallen once in the river and it was wet, it's done, like it can be sacrificed to the gods of the water. But finally they could figure out how to do it. For me it was a bit more relaxed because my stage came much later. So 2 days I had to rehearse my material just on the floor, being connected to something behind me that I get the feeling of the space and of the rope that I had to move with. And then my first full rehearsal was rather late. It was the day before the show, and there it turned out that everything that I worked out before doesn't work. So it was really frustrating for me, like very frustrating. Because the lifting stage that drove me up were not switched off, so there was all the time this vibrating motor of the machine, like The second thing is the stage was completely dark, and for the beginning of my choreography I had to do a handstand, which was impossible to hold because the stage was shaking and it was completely dark, so I had no spot to focus on with my eyes, which helps me a lot to hold my handstand. And I was not able to get up on my handstand. I was fighting for half a minute, fighting and I couldn't get up, and then anyway, everything was gone for me already. And yeah, all the other timings also didn't work together. The lights and the music were also not perfectly coordinated yet, so it was quite confusing, everything. But from our mistakes we can learn. It's our opportunity. So I gave them immediately feedback which things didn't work out for me, and the light guy tuned the light, the sound guy tuned the sound. They installed me a little light on my stage so I could focus for my handstand. And finally we could even figure out with the guy who drove me up with the stage to switch off the motor, because in the beginning they were very worried that it doesn't work because it takes too long to switch it on, so I cannot come down on time. But finally everything worked out, it was switched on, I had my light and I held my handstand perfectly for the performance. And even for the general rehearsal everything worked out very well. And it was like a miracle how all the different elements of this show could connect together and finally come out as a really impressive, beautiful show that was watched by 40,000 people. This production was directed by Robert Dornhelm, who created his films all around the world, and even in Hollywood he has a well-known name. If you like this video, smash the like button, give us a comment and subscribe to our channel. Peace out and see you soon.